back. It's February. We're back at a new HQ. Devil's Peak, Cape Town, from our home. These are good times. Trees, sunshine, the big derby. It's the Stormers against the Bulls. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk Six Nations, Guinness Six Nations. We have to talk Wales, 0. How they got 0, no one knows. It was a great effort to get 0. Antoine Dupont, the greatest player that's ever lived.
In any sport.
I mean, have you ever seen a guy throw a 4 pass like that and get 7 points?
Incredible.
Huh? A cross kick. Filth. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Although we see it everywhere else. But Antoine Dupont on fire. France 43. Wales 0. Ireland, given the English, a good one in the second half. All the hooting going in the background for the Irish. And then Scotland, nervy at one stage, and then came through against Italy. Did you know that Italy trailed at halftime by 10 or more points? In their Six Nations history, it's happened 114 times, and they've never won.
Wow.
And now it's 115.
Sure.
Because they never won again.
Lovely
They
stat.
never won again. Looking at the Six Nations, in South Africa, a lot of people are like, oh, who cares about the Six Nations? If you care about rugby, you've got to care about the Six Nations. Because it's teams that we go over there and we really struggle to beat. This last tour of ours, when we won 3 in a row, was the first time in more than a decade that we actually were unbeaten there. So I love the Six Nations. At one stage, there were so many South Africans in it. Now there's only 4 in it. And one of them I didn't actually know much about till last week.
Oh, Vincenzo.
Hey, Vincenzo. Vincenzo from Bishops. Who played fullback in grade 11, in and out of the first team. And he came on against Scotland at number 8, and he started against the All Blacks at number 8 and played all 80 minutes. So to think about it, this guy was playing for Bishops, grade 11, a couple of years ago, fullback, and then in the seconds, he only ever played one game, first team loose forward, and that was in that Newlands Schools Derby day, and then COVID struck, and then he went over to Italy, and because he's got an ancestral grandfather, got a scholarship to the academy, the National Academy. Went over, had never been to Italy, couldn't speak any Italian, obviously. Within a year, he was captain of the Italy under-20 side that beat England. He was doing his team talks through Google Translate in the beginning. He got to know the anthem very quickly, and he's now established. And he's 22 years old. He plays for Exeter Chiefs. He's studying at Exeter University. His name is Vincent.
Ross Vincent.
Exactly. Ross
Is that
Vincent.
right?
Yeah, of course
Yeah.
it's Ross Vincent. Just checking. A lot of people that I spoke to in Cape Town didn't even know he had gone to Bishops.
Mate, I had no idea. And actually, that's a great segue into my take on the Six Nations, which may not be the most popular take. I think Six Nations is lots of fun to watch. It's great for the casual fan. And I've actually enjoyed some of these games, but I think you always have to watch these matches in the context of the fact that the Six Nations is a bit like Southern Suburbs schoolboy rugby.
Hey,
It is-
easy there, Tiger. Whoa.
It is very entertaining, and they can put on a great performance. Some of the matches are outstanding to watch, and some of the players that come out of there are great. But generally, you have to watch it in the context of this is Southern Suburbs schoolboy rugby. Once these Oaks go on the road, they get on the N1 and they head north and they go to Paarl. That's where the big boys are, and I think you get kind of a feel for the pecking order in those games. So the Six Nations is fantastic. We know what happens when those nations play the Southern Hemisphere teams often. And so it's awesome to watch them play each other. It's awesome to watch Weinberg play Rondebosch and Sachs to play Bishops. But as soon as the Paul Roos and the Paul boys come to town, it's a whole different level.
So would you say then, to use that kind of context, that the Springboks and the All Blacks would pretty much be Paul Boys High and Paul Gymnasium?
Without a doubt.
Australia, we can't put them anymore out in the... They've now relocated. They're somewhere between Paarl and Cape Town, okay? They're like a shitty northern suburb school at the moment. And then the rest, when you watch Ireland play England, it's like watching the classic clash, Sachs against Weinberg.
100%.
And when you watch Scotland play against England, it's a bit like watching Bishops against Rondebosch.
Precisely.
And where does France then fit in? Are they Bull and Lumper?
It must be, mate. That is exactly where they're at. But it very much is a different tier of rugby. You can see it, and you know what's going to happen. As soon as he's Antoine Dupont, the best player in the world because of what he did against Wales. I'm not sure Wales would win the URC when France play South Africa, it's a whole different ball game. Obviously, the level goes up significantly. So Six Nations, good to watch, lots of fun, bit of popcorn, but not exactly steak and peas.
Well, I can tell you they wouldn't win the URC because they'd have to play Ireland. Because Leinster are Ireland, okay?
Correct.
And I mean, and Ireland, again, first 40 minutes tight. They're 20 minutes after half-time, just in another level to England. We spoke over the WhatsApp. We spoke on the phone during the game. And we were like, they'll probably win this game by 20 points, Ireland. They were on their way to win it by 20. 2 late tries. The worst thing that could ever happen to English rugby, because everyone found positives again. 27-22 is not that bad. That 27-10 was more the reflection of how that game went. Regardless of what decisions may have gone for the Irish or against the English, Ireland was so superior in that second half. England they were like punch drunk. They were just hanging on somewhere in that corner. And when it got to 27-10, a few subs made the 2 late tries. But England in trouble, with Steve Borthwick. They lost 7 games against Tier 1 nations. It's 7 from 9 defeats in all. Yet they keep on finding a new dawn. The new dawn was against New Zealand, in New Zealand, 2 test matches.
It's a bit like when you watch those street fights on the social media when those Americans kind of front up to each other. There's a lot of like Hollywood lines that are thrown, but not too many punches. And England did kind of have that pretender status about them, I mean, all those hacks that wanted to get Eddie Jones out of there, what do they say now? It's business as usual. You can kind of see why Eddie was frustrated there. A lot of guys that looked the part, but can't actually deliver on game day. Do they have talented players? Yes, they do. But definitely no world beaters in there in terms of what they can produce as a collective.
I think in the context of the British and Irish Lions are going to Australia this year, Six Nations has taken on a completely different dimension because people are playing for a place in Andy Farrell's Lions squad. It's not Warren Gatton in charge. He did 3 Lions tours. It's a new guy in charge. Obviously, he played for England. Son played for England over 100 times. Owen Farrell coached Ireland, succeeded Joe Smith's done well. So there's people believe there will be an Irish bias, and there should be because they're the best team out of the 4 home unions. But I've been interested to see all the teams that get picked. Sir Clive Woodward's picking his side. Gavin Hastings is picking his side. They're all very different to what's been out there. When you look at that first weekend, we're going into weekend 2, this weekend, you don't see too many Welsh players who can make that squad. Scotland, good players in certain positions, but then in those positions, there's some very good players in the other home unions. But when I looked at it, obviously Ireland in that 20-minute period after half-time, and this is the Irish side that also lost to New Zealand 23-13, lost to us, beat Australia 22-19, we're hanging on, and beat Argentina 22-19, we're hanging on. So they weren't great in the November test matches. They looked in a different class in that second half against England, and just physically looked stronger than England.
No, totally.
But then someone like Atoje, who people were saying could be the captain of the Lions, didn't look too flash. Coming up against a very good Irish pack. Captaincy fell away in that second half. Ill discipline. So I think with each match, it's not just do we win the game, it's where are we going with our Lions prospects. And with Australia having done fairly well on that grandstand, which we thought would be a grand sham, there's also a bit more pressure now on the Lions because this 3-0 clean sweep that everyone spoke about becomes a little bit tougher. With Australia now having had 6 more months with Joe Smith, and what's going on in the Six Nations. But when you look at it all, Zels, France just in another league.
France right up there. But again, they played Wales. It's tricky. It's tricky to really gauge how good France were because you've got to ask yourself how bad were Wales. And not just, this isn't a knock at the players. I think you could probably turn that Welsh side into something that's quite competitive. But what Gatlin is doing with that team now, where they're coming out and trying to be the cheaters and play great ball-in-hand rugby and use the width of the field, they just don't have the players for any of that stuff. And they don't really have the players for any of the facets or the tenets of winning rugby at test level to contest against the likes of England and Ireland and France. But they can at least play the percentages and give themselves a shot, because what they're doing now by running around at the ball is basically just pulling the pin out of a grenade and then dancing around waiting for it to explode. If those guys need to play a strong kicking game, back their defence, maybe pick players who are not the most skillful but have a big appetite for defence, I think Wales would have some semblance of a chance. Right now, they're just standing there like punching bags.
Well, they're playing Italy this weekend. Dan Bigger, great Welsh fly, has said that it's the biggest game in the last 20 years. The counter to that has been no. There's been 2 World Cup semi-finals. There's been a World Cup quarter-final. There's been some big matches for Wales, and there's been 4 championships. So it's not their biggest game. potentially their most desperate game, to go to Italy. And who would back them to beat Italy at the moment in Italy? Very few people. They couldn't beat Italy at home. Gatlin, 150th Test match in charge for Wales. He had a 12-year stint. We had all the success. 3 Lions tours. He's come back. He's lost 13 matches in a row. How's he still got a job?
No, exactly. And I mean, if you read between the lines, he's getting a bit of, I wouldn't say pressure from home, but his missus has said to him, listen, why are you doing this to yourself? And he's probably asking himself that same question right now. I don't know, Italy have beaten Wales twice in a row now, but they haven't beaten them in Italy since 2007, as far as I can tell. And so, I think if you back history, you think Wales have got a shot this weekend. I don't think they've got a shot in the sense that Italy, for me, are the most exciting team in the Six Nations this year in terms of they're the team that can make the biggest strides forward. I think Gonzo Quesada is a great coach. And you could see in the way they played, even though they lost out, you could see the plan, you could see the framework of what they're trying to achieve. And there's a lot of guys there that are probably on the sort of big stage trying to catch a few eyeballs for contracts in the future. I think Italy are a team that can do things in the Six Nations, maybe not win or beat these major teams, but certainly earn some respect.
Well, I mean, you look at the Bok performance against Scotland last year, November. I mean, 70 minutes, it was... Scotland would have felt they were in that game. The momentum shift was because of our incredible bomb squad that came on and changed the dynamic. We rolled them in the last 10 minutes. But 14-0 up very early on against Italy. The old Italian sides would have fallen away. It would have been a 50-pointer. They came back, it was 19 all on the hour. And they actually had a bit of the momentum. And then Scotland, just outstanding from counter-attack play, scored and scored again, and that kind of took the puff out of the Italians, who still finished on the Scottish line. So it is a very different type of Italian side. We saw them battle against New Zealand 29-11. It took a bit of Bowden Barrett magic near the end to break that deadlock. So exciting, but just not good enough. Their best ever finished 4th last year out of 6. And they won 2 games and drew 1. I can't see them going better than that. Despite how weak Wales are, vulnerable England may be, they've lost to Scotland, and I don't see them beating an England or France or an Ireland.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, Italy are certainly up against it, but there is some sort of there's an uprising there in Italian rugby, and I think they're on the cusp of making some changes that are going to help that nation and those clubs be more competitive. And like I say, Gonzo Quesada, I think he's going to make some big changes there that are telling.
Okay, now we look at Ross Vincent, okay? We spoke about, he's got a great story as well. Born in Johannesburg, age 3, moved with his family to Dubai, played for the Arabian Knights at 6 years old, rugby club. Always wanted to go to Bishops in Cape Town. His parents said no. He watched all the videotapes. I'm sure he's watched highlights of Herschel Gibbs from his heyday into the Robbie Flecks of the world, the Nick Costas of the world, the Sashas of the world. He said he wants to play for that school. Eventually, grade 10, they sent him there to boarding school. Grade 11, he made the first team at fullback, but then was in and out. He played nearly every position in the seconds, and then got a gap to ended up at scrum off, I think, in the seconds in his grade 11 year. And then played against Paul Jim in that Derby day at Newlands Day. They lost. There are no conversions there. They lost 20-15, 4 tries to 3. COVID struck. Never played again that year. Matriculated. And then an agent said to him, but you've got ancestry with your grandfather who comes from Sicily. What about Italy? He got the passport and he was there. He's 22 years old. He's played last season he played 32 matches for Italy and Exeter, okay? He played 9 tests in his first year for Italy. Again, 80 minutes as a starting option against the All Blacks at number 8. You look at a youngster like Connor Evans, who's in the Stormers squad, was the star loose forward in that Bishop's first team in his matric year. He hasn't really kicked on with the Stormers yet. Yet this kid is playing Six Nations. He's playing Test rugby against the best teams in the world. Now, someone said to me, it just shows how crap the Six Nations is. Someone else said, it just shows how they may have got their talent identification wrong. But I think it's a wonderful story of someone who goes to another place.
Beautiful.
And actually just makes it. But it got me thinking.
Oh, dangerous.
We have so many players in this country.
Correct.
That we don't care. We just take the next one.
Correct.
Where someone like Italy doesn't. Someone like Australia doesn't. So they see a talent. They've got to mold it. And they've got to make it work. And we've seen there were so many South Africans that have been on the peripheral of a test selection here. And everyone's like, I don't know if they'll make it. Stuart Abbott. Brad Barrett. For England in the midfield. And went on and played starring roles. Were great at club level over there. And did well. What lesson is there in that for us? Is it one of play the kids when they're like old enough is good enough? If the guy's 20, play him. Don't wrap him in cotton wool and stick him through a Vodacom Cup, through a Curry Cup, and play him in the URC, play him in the Champions Cup, and stick him in the test side. Because other nations are doing it, and our guys are coming good.
Yeah, I think that is a fantastic point, and I think it's an age-old debate. I think in South Africa, some of our best coaches have come through the ranks and have been successful because they're the best talent identification guys. And in South Africa, and I think some Australians have said this in the past, you've probably been exposed to it, but in Australia, you've got to go and coach players up to the level that you need them to play at. In South Africa, you've got to be able to pick and identify and pick the best of the crop to fit the plan that you're trying to play. And so South Africa coaching is very much about talent identification because we've got a wealth of so much talent. But I agree with you in the sense that it shouldn't be this predetermined pecking order where if a guy is under 23 years old, we can't play him because we owe it to these guys who are older to see what they've got to continue to play. You've got to wait your turn. I think when there's a youngster that comes through, it's clearly got the goods. This Jonathan Roach kid from the Stormers, this is a great example. Injury has necessitated him playing. Would we have seen him if there hadn't been injuries? I don't know. But this is a guy who's very exciting, has a bright future, and maybe came with less of a reputation than Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu, but he's got the sort of acting chops to do this. So I think talent identification is key in South African coaching, and I think coaches need to be braver about picking some of these young guys and running with them.
Well, if you look at the Horrens and the Littles, they were 18, 20, 19 when they made their test debuts. Franz Steyn, 18.
Totally.
Made his test debut. Good enough is old enough, whether you're 39 or whether you're 18.
Totally.
And for me, I'm a huge fan of investment in youth in this country. Play the youngster first before you play the veteran necessarily. Have the veteran there as the backup. But the only way that youngster gets better is through game time. You can't simulate game time. He's got to be out there on the park, and they learn lessons. And someone like Roach, what he would have taken out that match against Leinster in Dublin a fortnight ago, starting in the midfield against the likes of a Geordie Barrett, then going to fly off because of Marnie Lebok going off and the reshuffling. Yes, the Stormers lost and lost badly, but you can't teach that guy that on the training field, what he would have experienced at that age. So,
and isn't that the plus of this having to campaign on two fronts now in South African rugby? Is that you've got more games than you can possibly cope with such a small squad. So now you have to start fielding guys who you wouldn't ordinarily have played. And maybe that's this European Cup competitions are going to be the opportunity we give to youngsters to put their hand up and make a name for themselves.
Yeah, and again, like, if you've got the same 23 playing every week, there's a whole cycle of players that never get a gap. Here, this just doesn't happen anymore. Teams are using 35, 40 players every season. And if you're good enough, you will come through, even in a losing cause. And with them still being so many South Africans overseas, close to half of the box squad is still based overseas, a lot of them in Japan at the moment. I just love the fact that someone like Ross Vincent's story is so unheralded, but it's an inspiration to anyone here. And these guys also don't make the Springbok side in their first year, who throw their toys out the cart and say, well, I'm going overseas. Then go overseas, okay? Try and make it somewhere else, because you probably will. But it's just the talent that we've got. I mean, you guys at SA Rugby Magazine, before the start of the Six Nations, you picked an SA-born 15 with an SA-born management team, which was one hell of a team. And then you went and found a New Zealand, the Black Exiles, born 15 who played Six Nations, and a management team who had coached each one of those national sides over there. To put those two sides out there just shows the talent in New Zealand rugby and the talent in South African rugby. And I'd go as far as to say is, I do believe we have more talent because you have greater numbers in South Africa than New Zealand.
Big time.
Our skill level hasn't always been there. That is changing now. But that's why they are the two greatest rugby nations. That's why they've won 7 World Cups between them, and 2 of them we didn't even play in as South Africa.
Exactly.
And when they haven't won it, invariably, I think there's only been once there that there hasn't been an All Black or South African side playing either in the final or third or fourth playoff. So we have so much talent. The key is the coaching of that talent. I remember Eddie Jones many years ago coming down, it's probably like 15 years ago now. I think he did the Jake White, Eddie Jones coaching courses. You were on them as well. And he went out to Stellenbosch University and he was watching these guys play, and he thought it was the SA under-20 squads. And they told him it was the Corsair race. He was like, he couldn't believe the talent there. And his thing was, when they had Larkham and Burke, both 15s, the one who could potentially adapt to 10 was Larkham. And it was like, we got to put them both on the field. We got to play them both, and we got to coach the one. Where in this country, we are so comfortable with just kicking out the one and taking the next one, because this incredible schoolboy conveyor belt into the club system, into the varsity system, and even into the old like defense force, police force kind of systems. So our biggest curse potentially has been too many players and not enough talent identification and not enough coaching. And that's why it's one of the coolest stories to write for me was the Ross Vincent one, because of the 4 South Africans playing. It's Rob Herring. We know his background. Sax boy went over. Anton Moorman's brother-in-law, I think it is, from Hammies. But he's been in Ireland for the last 10, 11 years. He's kind of made his name there at Ulster. Duan van der Merwe, residency, 3 years in Edinburgh. Been superb, played SA under-20s. And his mate, Pierre Skuman, went from the Bulls. And who was this fourth guy? Because I was thinking for the first time there's an Italian match 23 that doesn't have a South African in it. And it's this Ross Vincent. And I was like, who is Ross Vincent, you know? And just chatting to some guys, well, he couldn't even make our first team in grade 11 in the loose forwards.
Yeah.
What a wonderful, romantic story. And again, proof of guy gets an opportunity, he gets coaching, and he's playing on the biggest stage against the biggest teams at 22.
Insane.
No, just amazing.
Yeah,
you know,
and
amazing.
it's very much a timing thing, isn't it? I mean, there's tons of guys that have gone over and kind of just disappeared. But obviously, Ross just got his timing perfect there, went to the right place at the right time and delivered the goods.
And to have a grandfather from Sicily.
Mate,
Eh?
can't go wrong there.
Okay, so anything that surprised you from the weekend? Scotland won. We thought they'd win. Do you think it'd be as tight?
Let's start on Friday. So I expected Wales to lose. I didn't expect them to lose by 43 points, and I didn't expect them not to score any points. So disappointed in Wales. France pretty much played to the level I expected them to. I think I tipped Ireland to beat England by 5 points, which they came good for right at the end. I was surprised how much trouble England gave Ireland in that first half. And we've spoken about our suspicion that Ireland have maybe peaked and on the sort of wane. The fact that England ran them like they did was interesting to me. Yeah, I thought that was quite telling. I think you spoke about the Lions earlier on. You kind of got to think that squad is going to be primarily Ireland players, because there's a bunch of those guys who are very familiar with Australasia, seeing as though they were born there. Gibson Park, James Lowe, etc., etc. They were phenomenal in that game against England and basically won it for them. Low down the left touchline there was ridiculous. Yeah, I thought that was quite a high impact game from those 3 guys.
James Lowe, and I'm a huge James Lowe fan. When he played for the Chiefs, he played for New Zealand Maori. But in New Zealand, he didn't fit the billing of what the All Black coaches and selectors back then saw in their back 3. And for me, he was the perfect back 3 player. He's got one of the biggest left boots, bigger than most fullbacks. He's got such an appreciation in terms of his kicking game. His chase game is good. He's got such a great attitude. People hate him because he's in your face. He's aggressive. But 3 try assists. I think he now has 6 against England in the Six Nations try assists, second on the all-time list. He's only been there about 3 years. But great mongrel, great attitude. And for me, I thought he was the player of the match. I mean, they gave it to Gibson Park. I know why. He controls everything. Probably outside of DuPont, the form 9 in world rugby at the moment. But the 2 of them, the 2 Kiwis, they sparked everything. The Blues and Chiefs boys sparked everything. Mac Hansen was also very good on the right wing. And then Bundiaki, another great Irishman.
Keeps going.
Born and bred.
Another Chief.
Raised. Counties Manukau and Chiefs.
Yeah.
Has flourished internationally for Ireland. But again, you take those 4 players out, it'll be a very different Irish side.
Very different game. And I know Wales use international players, but you've got to have some respect for them because they have protected their sort of heritage, I would say, better than the likes of Ireland, who've clearly gone out with David Nusaforo back in the day and targeted guys to bring in and ramp up the quality of that team. And so, Ireland are getting some good results, but you always got to have that little asterisk there. Like, what would it be like if this was 15 Irishmen?
Listen here, mate. If Wales could pick 15 Kiwis and South Africans, they would.
It's the weather, mate.
Because they
can't
did
get
that.
them there.
When Graham Henry was there, at one stage, there was about 7 Kiwis. Shane Howarth, who famously kicked 6 penalty goals against the Box, 1994, Eden Park, 2 tests to 0 up New Zealand against the Springboks. We scored 2 tries to 0. It's 18 all. Howarth kicked 6 penalties. Played for Auckland Blues. Next minute, he's the saviour to Wales. Graham Henry brought him in because he was born in a little village where the church burnt down, and obviously all his birth records went with it. And that was the big scandal.
But I'm
over
saying
there.
during the Warren Ball era, right? Those were Welsh players, the majority of those guys.
Yes.
Allegedly.
Were there? Yeah.
Listen, back to James Lowe. It's easy, and they do this with the South African teams all the time. Oh, how could you let this guy go? He was so good. Brad Barrett, how could you let him leave? But in a country that has so much talent, it's very difficult to obviously field everybody. And at the time that James Lowe came through at the Chiefs, I think he came through at the same time as Sean Stevenson, who for me was equally as good as him, ended up staying in New Zealand and has been largely, I wouldn't say anonymous, has had some great games, but certainly nobody's talking about him as being potentially the best fullback or wing in the world. So I think Lowe just got his timing right, went to the right place that needed a guy like him, and then ran with his opportunity.
Yeah, and Sean
Stevenson, yeah.
He's played 1 test against the Wallabies, scored a try. Maybe he may be a Sean Salby. He looks back one day and thinks, why did I play that one
test?
Mate.
Because
because he had gone to the north. Scotland would have snapped him up.
Mate.
They would have found a grandmother somewhere.
If Sean Maitland can make it in Scotland.
They would have found a grandmother somewhere because his fullback win. But James Lowe, I just thought was outstanding. And Gibson Park's game has certainly matured. I mean, he reminds me of a very good Farid Aprea, the way he plays, the way he controls the game. And then Bundi Aki, I think he's probably got a season left, okay, Bundi. But still, he's a bull. He's hard to stop.
Yeah.
But it was good to see Ireland get off the mark like that. I love seeing England lose. So I just don't think Borthwick's a great coach at all, and I thought they would have been more inventive. They would have gone with someone from the Southern Hemisphere, maybe.
Never, mate. I think Borthwick fits with the brand.
Maybe a South African.
It's coming.
Eddie Jones was in the ITV studio, and then they said, they quoted him as saying, but Eddie, you said that Itoje doesn't have it to be a captain. And he said, oh, mate, don't believe everything you read. That's been written. And then they said, by you, because it was in your book. Eddie was backpedaling there. You got me there, mate. Oh, I haven't done that. So, but great Six Nations. Great start. France, I mean, the depth that they're in their rugby at the moment, we've seen that in club level. Even though they're outside of Toulouse, the other clubs are hugely boosted by foreign-based players as well. But that was a combination of La Rochelle and Toulouse that started that game. Just outstanding. I mean, those 2 winners, brilliant. Pinot wasn't playing. Like at the World Cup, it was like Pinot's the best win in the world with Cheslin Colby.
Yeah.
He wasn't even there.
Yeah.
Jalibert wasn't there. He doesn't play on the bench. Okay, apparently he's going to start this weekend. So their midfield completely different as well. Their loose forwards different. They've got some power there, and then obviously they got Dupont. Now I think Dupont is a generational player, one of the best to ever play the game. But talk of him being the greatest ever. I mean, people must go back and watch Dan Carter destroy the Lions in Wellington in 2005 with 31 points to see a complete game. It's just ridiculous the praise that he gets every time he just picks up a ball and flicks it. It's like no scrum half has ever passed the ball.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's getting on people's nerves, especially here in the South, is there's no doubt that he's a great player. But every time he does something, it's like, who else could have done that? I don't know anyone who could have lobbed a ball 10 meters forward and got the try.
I mean, how you got away with that? It's just crazy.
And no one even spoke about it.
Yeah.
No one even mentioned it.
Yeah.
So
I think in rugby, obviously, picking a scrum half to be the greatest of all time is quite a tricky one because it's the forwards who decide who wins and the backs who decide by how much. So if you were going to pick a player that was the greatest of all times, it would have to be from the front 8, surely. Richie McCaw has to be in that conversation. I'm not sure you could pick a little 9 and be like, this is the best player ever to play this game. That's a bit of a reach if you ask me.
and I mean, like Carter was best 10 for me to ever play the game. But
Sure.
also, if Carter was playing for Italy, he would be outstanding, but he may not be quite as brilliant. Sergio Parisi lost over 100 test matches for Italy. Superstar was starred. Francais, and if he had gone and played for South Africa or in New Zealand, there would be no debate. He's in the top 2 of ever played the game at 8. So
you know what I will say about Antoine Dupont as well is that, and we've spoken about timing earlier in the show, he's got his 100% right because at club level and at international level, he plays behind a ferocious pack of forwards with a front row that's double the size of everybody else. I'd quite like to see Antoine Dupont, play for a lesser team, and let's see how he operates with less go forward ball and what he does. I think he's a very good player. I just think a lot of the hype comes from that particular team, and what France have got in Six Nations is they can bully the rest of those other 5 teams in the comp. And some of that falls away when they go and play Southern Hemisphere teams, I think.
I would just like to see him play in the Southern Hemisphere in a test match, and it's not going to happen till the World Cup in
I want to see him in the
2027.
Curry Cup, mate.
Eh?
I
Or in the
see him
Vodacom Cup.
in the Curry
I
Cup.
want to see him play Durbell on a Saturday
There we go.
afternoon.
Now we're talking,
okay?
mate. Let's see.
Against Goodwood.
Exactly.
In the rain. Eh?
That's what I'm
Let's
talking
see that
about.
cross kick now, mate. My God, he's good. He's kicked that one right into Brackenfell. So, no, he's a wonderful player. And I think we've been deprived in the South by him not
Totally.
playing against the All Blacks in the 3 test matches. When he came to South Africa, it was in the beginning of his career. He got on for 24 minutes in Durban. They lost that test 37-15. Alistair Coetzee, one of the nicest 3-0 series wins that he had.
Yes.
Elton Yankees kicked a lot of points. Warren Whiteley was our captain. My God, we beat France with that and beat them convincingly, okay? And then him not going to Australia when they've gone down there either. Great player, wonderful player, but you got to play everywhere. You can't just pick. You play at home or you play in Europe. I mean, they came here for one game to lose against the Sharks, and they haven't stopped bitching about it. Just how much it took out of them to come down to Durban for a week and go home again.
Yeah.
And then took it out on some hapless team that lost by 60 the next week to them. Damn you! So, Six Nations, we're going to wrap it up with a little score predictor for this weekend.
Italy, Wales.
I'm going for Italy. I'm going for Italy to win by 11 points at home.
Okay.
If Italy back themselves and play to their ability and don't play history,
Yes.
they should beat this Welsh team, and they should beat them comfortably. We've seen Benetton knock over some good sides, the very best of the Welsh that have come over there. No reason why Benetton/Italy can't knock over Wales, this Welsh side. And as Sam Warburton even acknowledged, must be the worst Welsh side ever.
Ever.
Alan Wynne-Jones, poor bugger.
Didn't say a word.
He didn't say a word. He just kept on shrugging his
head.
shoulders. Tom Shankton was still trying to find the positive. And Dr. Roberts, Jamie Roberts, was just nodding. I mean, these 4 giants of Welsh rugby
They're
just
probably
couldn't,
still their best players, mate.
they couldn't believe that Wales had fallen off so quickly, and in terms of the talent and what's out there. So Welsh rugby is shambles at the moment. I can't see them getting a win. And even if they did, I don't think it makes much difference. I think Gatlin, we saw it when he went to the Waikato Chiefs. I lost 7 in a row. Maybe the game has passed him by. And his time has come and gone. Great servant to the game. Mate, go and enjoy your retirement. Breeding someone new.
I'm not writing Gats off. I think he may not have the appetite for this particular job, but I think he's an experienced coach who knows what he's doing. I still think Italy are going to win. I'm going to give Italy 8 points to beat Wales.
It's a bit like, would you say Gats is maybe in a bit like Ancelotti when he was coaching Everton, managing Everton, and then they axed him because they couldn't beat Liverpool, and then, well, we thought this guy was so good. He came here, nearly relegated. They bulleted him. We went to Real Madrid and then won the treble. Okay,
I think that could happen.
Yeah, and then they asked him what changed, and he said, "Well, I was driving a Fiat, and now I'm driving a Ferrari." So you think if Gats left,
I think that's exactly
Wales
what it
and
is.
went to France or went
Totally,
to England
mate.
or Ireland,
Totally.
he may say, "I'm now driving a Ferrari
Totally.
again, not this Fiat." Okay?
Totally.
So or a little Corsa. So okay, we got Italy to win. We're unanimous on that.
Le Cranche.
The crunch. Well, let's do them last. Let's just
Okay,
go
Sunday
to
game, Scotland, Ireland.
Yeah, let's go to Ireland, Scotland. Can Scotland beat them at Murrayfield in Edinburgh?
In
Is
a
it
word,
possible?
no. They've played them 31 times this century, and Ireland have won 25 of them. The last time Scotland beat them was 2017. I think Hugh Jones could just start growing a beard back then. He'll be good. He may even score 1 or 2 tries, but Ireland are going to win this one.
Hugh Jones, we made him here in Cape Town.
We made him. He's ours.
We're claiming him. Western
basically
Province
South
and the
African.
Stormers,
Yeah.
UCT. We made him. I think he did a lot of time in the southern suburbs out on the Atlantic seaboard.
A lot of time,
We
mate.
showed him the good life.
Yeah.
He went back to Edinburgh and
Took the vitamin D with him, mate.
yeah, went over to Glasgow and people just saw this guy can play, man. But I think he's a great
He's
player.
a fabulous
and
player.
I think he's going to make the Lions squad. I don't know if he will start in their preferred 15, but I think his form is good. He's peaking at the right time.
Yeah.
And he's just got a wonderful appreciation for the game, a wonderful feel for the game. But again, I look at that Scotland side, 40% foreign-based players in their side, the most in the top 10 nations. They call this the greatest Scottish team in their history.
I mean, maybe the greatest Scotland team. I don't know if they can call them Scottish.
Yeah, Scotland team, but if that is the greatest, well, that's why they wear thistle, I guess. a weed.
Oi!
The national flower. We'll take the thistle.
Oh, mate.
We'll take the thistle.
I love Scotland. I think Scotland's great. I
The
just wish they'd
thistle
be
will
more
be
Scottish.
brave.
Yeah. Listen, Rory Dodge, now there's a player. That kid who plays on the open side, he's a hell of a player. They've got some talent there. They've got some guys that can do things. But I don't think against Ireland, I think Gary Ringrose is coming back into his best form, and I think it's going to be a bit of a long day at the office there.
And what's his name? Duan van der Merwe.
He'll disappear, mate. They'll shut him down.
I would like him to have been on the right wing and James Lowe on the left. That would have been. But James Lowe against Darcy will be.
And Mac Hansen against Duan.
Yeah, it's going to be good on the wingers there. As you say, you may see Duan just disappearing a little bit there. I think Ireland got too much for them, too much class, and I think they needed that first 25 of the second half against England to get back their self-belief that they are in the top 2-3 in the world. I've got them to win a bit more comfortably than the bookies will say.
Yeah, I've got Ireland to win by 5 points.
5?
5, mate.
5, okay.
5.
I've got them to win by 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure,
Comfortable
dig.
12.
Double dig.
Double dig. And then we go to the Allianz, formerly known as Twickenham.
The home of rugby.
Where I don't think England has beaten a Tier 1 nation yet.
Oh,
I think the only win was against Japan.
Oh.
And they're not Tier 1, eh?
No,
not
mate.
yet.
I don't think so.
We'll speak to Donnie Trump about that. We'll change that
We'll
as well.
work it out.
Yeah, I've got France to win. I've got France to win comfortably, eh?
When you say comfortably?
15 points.
Woof! Really?
Yeah.
Look at you go, mate.
And that guy at 9 is going to be sensational. Greatest player to ever play at the Allianz.
Le Garec.
Eh? The greatest player to ever play at the Allianz. Eh?
I'm going to say France win it, but I'm giving France 4 points in this one.
Why are you giving England
Mate,
that
you don't
much
just
credit?
go to Twickenham and push him around, mate. Nobody beats England 14 times in a row, mate. Or whatever it is.
I mean, Australia went to Twickenham for
France
some
are on the cusp of beating England 4 times in a row in this match. And the last time they did that was in the mid-90s, which was a streak that started at the 1995 World Cup in the bronze place playoff. Interesting facts.
And that was in Pretoria.
Yes, it was.
That was in Pretoria.
Yeah, Loftus.
Intermac still played. Not,
Look at you, mate.
Not
a beautiful mind.
Not Romanian Intermac.
Okay.
Emil Intermac. His father was on the win.
Who were the ARs? Who were the touch judges, mate?
Touch judges, mate. Now you got me there.
At last, I'm not who they were.
Did they have touch judges in those days? All right, so that's the Six Nations stuff. Follow the Money Man's page for some good tips as well.
Yeah.
I know he was shattered
Shattered, mate.
over the weekend. The Welsh dragon that he wears so proudly on his heart. He also wears a Springbok on the right because he's been here 26 years. But the Money Man said there is no way. The bookies had Wales to lose by 28 plus, and he said there's no way. He said 27.5, they'll cover that spread. Go for it and bet on that for Wales. And then I got a really nice text message from him on Saturday morning to say, F you, Wales.
He was right until halftime.
It was gone by halftime. It was 28-0.
Yeah.
So go onto his Facebook page
Who
and
could have
follow
seen
him.
that one?
I think he'll be a bit more circumspect, but also a bit more educated this weekend because we've had one round.
Yeah.
You've got a
It's
bit of
always
a
tough to
form
tell the
book,
opener,
okay?
yeah.
So that is Six Nations, the Guinness Six Nations. Look out for that South African connection. Let's hope that Duan van der Merwe does do something in this game. Look out for that youngster playing for Italy, Ross Vincent. Great, wonderful story on him. We're going to go to the big game. It's a game that should have happened in the first game of the URC. It's at the DHL Stadium. It's midweek here in Cape Town. As you can see, a glorious Cape Town from HQ's mezzanine level. The stadium you'll see on my left, on the right you'll see the mountain.
There we go, mate.
45,000 tickets sold already. And again, you know, the Stormers are...
You forgot to put your
Dobber,
car
they
along.
just broke into Dobber's car, okay, to kind of get... yeah, there's a bit of an alarm going there. That's what happens when you stay in the burbs near the mountain. But Dobbo, 7 wins in succession against Jake White's Bulls. And then they lost 40-22. Can he make it 8 from 9? And is this alarm ever going to stop going, mate?
And we're back. It's off at last. Jeez.
Thank God. I don't know who broke in there. Maybe Jake White breaking into Dobbo's place to see what the game plan is. The game plan for the Stormers will be vattle voor on percentages, speel met 10, hoek toe, pale toe, vat die wen, and get out of there.
Mate, it doesn't matter what language the Stormers are speaking on Saturday. I don't think it's going to go the right way, mate. I think we're in for a bit of a Bulls win. 2 on the trot against the Stormers. I've got the Bulls to win
Would
this
that
one.
put Jake on a streak against Dobbo?
It would, mate. It actually would.
Because Dobbo, 7 wins. Listen to those birdies chirping. 7 wins in succession against Jake. Jake said to me, the tide will turn. Could have been when you Uggs put Jake behind the black ball. 8. He's going to be number 8. Hey, when the 7 up signs came up with Dobbo, 7 up.
Yes, I remember
beautiful, that. The new kind of flavor of drink in the URC for the Stormers when they play against the Bulls. 7 up. Then it was the black ball. Jake behind the 8 black ball. Was it going to be 8 in a row?
And then he won.
And it just hasn't been the same since. He's continued to win in certain games, and Dobbo's just still trying to find a team to play. I mean, at last count, I looked. Okay, Damian Willemse, fullback, injured. Hotzenberg win, injured. Senate win, injured. Dan du Plessis, centre, injured. Jean-Luc, injured. Marnie Lebok, injured. Sasha, injured. They got 3 scrum halves fit, apparently. So that's the whole backline gone.
Okay, and I think Ruan Nell's also out. There's another guy you can add to that injury list. Huge loss for the Stormers. Outside centre, runs their defence. It's going to be a long day at the office, mate.
Thanks for that nice transition. That was 2 minutes that we had to wait because some bugger's alarm's going off. That's the thing about outside broadcast in the Burbs, man. If the birds aren't chirping, it's Jake White chirping all the way from Pretoria. Someone's breaking into Dobbo's
It's authentic, mate.
holiday house just around the corner from me. Alarms going everywhere. Stormers a big one, though, at home. 45,000. This is a guts and glory. They are
huge for the Stormers.
It's huge. It's a home game. The Bulls are 6-2
Yep.
in the competition.
Yep.
They lose this. It's not a train smash. They go back home.
Yep.
They minus Kirtley. They minus Aurich, Ruan Nokia, and Johan Goosen. 4 big players out for them.
Yep.
So not at their full strength, but the Stormers, 11, 12 players. And that's been the story of Dobbo's season. Consistently, they just haven't had their players.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter how much you want to sugarcoat it. This is a mix of an A and B team that the Stormers are putting out there, best available, but it can't be seen as a given they're playing at home in front of 45,000 people that they should win this game. It's going to take a hell of an effort. It's going to take a lot of luck. It's going to take like backs to the wall, but it's been the story of their season.
True.
And how many times can you go out and just backs to the wall, fight for survival? Next weekend they're up in Joburg. It's not going to be easy up there against the Lions, who are always competitive or victorious in Johannesburg.
Yeah.
Just a huge test for the Stormers side. For me, it's again one man's misfortune, another one's another one's opportunity.
Yes.
That would have to be the attitude, guys. You just got to go out there and take it as an opportunity. It's the big North-South derby. But what it does show is that what Dobbo has built over the last 3 years with the Stormers side, the love that there is for them, people aren't going to watch them on Saturday because they're in the top 2 of the league at the moment.
No, this team's got an incredible following, the fan base.
Incredible following. To have this kind of
support,
they are the best supported team at a ground in the competition.
And rightfully so, in a way, because you spoke about the fight. That's one thing you know about Dobbo's teams is they will play for 83 minutes. They never go away, no matter what the score is. And regardless of who lines up in the jersey this week, you're going to see that again. That's what this team does. And I think that I think fans can relate to that. They like the character and they like the fighting against adversity. They can see it and they relate to it, and that's why they pitch up in their drive. Also, doesn't hurt that you got the mountain and the blue skies.
Oh, and a beautiful stadium, definitely a first world stadium. You still want to get a beer there. Take you forever. So for those who aren't drinking in February, it's a great experience. Also go sit in the family section. They don't serve any alcohol.
Yeah.
Also a nice experience. Yuri Mattia will be at 10 because there is no Sasha, there is no Damien, there is no Marnie. So you will, just by nature of the players, see a very different approach from the Stormers in terms of their back play. Mm-hmm. Yuri Mattia must play like Yuri Mattia, not try and be a Marnie or a Sasha, because he's not. No error. Play consistently for field position and kick his goals, and hope to goodness that the pack gets some form of parity. And I do think, even though they've got a lot of injuries, it's primarily in the backs. JD Strickland's a big loss for them at lock, but Ruben and Salma Marat, very good lock pairing as well. Maybe not the depth that you want on the bench. Frans Malherbe, he's due a big game. Joe Dweber's there. It was undecided whether Nietem Forshire would play or not if he's recovered from the head clash. But they still have a pack that's competitive against this Bulls pack, given that there's no Aurechelo and there's no Ruan Nokia. If they fix their line-out.
Totally.
The line-out has been a shambles for the last 3 weeks.
And I think that's the key, is the opportunity to ambush the Bulls is at the line-out. in the absence of Ruan Nokia and Ulrich Loh, there's an opportunity there to launch from your set piece, to get the driving more going, to stop the Bulls at source, to turn the Bulls over at source. There's lots of opportunity around the line-out, but there's a lot of pressure on those guys to take advantage of that, because outside of that, you've got to think at scrum time the Bulls are going to be pretty confident. And then tactically, the Bulls are set to take advantage of the absence of some of the key drivers in that Stormers backline.
And then, ironically, the guy who was not going to stay at the Bulls, and there was nothing to do with Willie LaRue. The story that I heard was that when Willie LaRue was contracted, it was for a certain amount, and then he was going to go off into the sunset with 100 test caps and possibly go back to Japan and play out for a season.
Yeah.
He's on the brink of that 100. He's going to get that next season. Rusty's made that very clear. He will get to 100. He's been superb for the Bulls. When he went in for the contract renegotiations, he was like, "No, mate, you on this?" He's like, "No, I'm now still valued at that." And I think common sense has prevailed, and they've said, "We do value you. You are good." I mean, you take Willie LaRue out of that back line for Saturday, and it looks very different again. He is a talisman for them, comfortable at fullback. He's favoured to start at fly-off against the Stormers because of no Johan Goosen. Just his feel for the game, his ability to create, and a credit to how he's come back to South Africa and how he's played. Also how he's embraced his role with the Springboks, with Apele Fassi, helping groom him, bringing him through, Damian Willemse. He's been prepared to be a player coach and kind of basically phase himself out into the coaching side. And when he does retire in a year or two, he'll definitely be involved in coaching somewhere, if not with the Boks, definitely with some team in South Africa.
Yeah.
But he, to me, is key to the outcome if the Bulls do get that parity up front.
No, totally. I think Willie LaRue for me is a guy I've always thought was a fly-off. I've never particularly liked him as a fullback option. I know Warasi uses him there as a second sort of playmaker, first receiver. I've loved him at fly-off ever since I saw him tear the Stormers to pieces in a preseason game for Boerland, after which we asked Alistair, "Why isn't this guy's in your plan?" And he said it's very easy to look good when you've got nothing to lose playing in a preseason game. Willie LaRue's playmaking skills are undoubted. That guy could tear any team to pieces. He sees the depth of the field and the width of the field, and he's got the skills in his hands and his feet to take advantage of that and move the ball to space. I think he did that, was it in last year's semi-finals of the URC where he played 10 and just cut the opposition to pieces?
Cut Leinster to pieces.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal player and a fantastic playmaker, and now he's got all of this experience in his back pocket as well, which is just going to move the balls around the field wherever he wants them. So he's a major threat. And then allied to that is one of my favourite overachievers, Devin Williams, who I expect to line up at fullback, is a superb player. He probably should have played at higher honours at some point in his career, if not for South Africa, somebody else. He's a fabulous player, and I think between him and Willie and Ambrose, who's now in form, the Stormers are going to have a hard time getting across the halfway line, and that's going to be, I think, have a big impact on the result.
So we talk about veterans, Willie LaRue, as everyone says, Willie the LaRue every time he goes through.
Yeah.
Strandhond, Paulrus, Gymnasium, Old Boy. Hopefully not another one of those born and bred and raised Cape Townians. School here, comes back and does us a dirty on Saturday. But the battle between the oldies, Marcel Coetzee and Dion Fourie. Now that's one for the ages.
Woo!
In every
Wow.
sense of the word.
Wow. I'm very much looking forward to that. Very, very much. Cam Honeycomb.
We'll get to him and Evan Roos now because that's a school battle, okay?
Wow.
But Dion Fourie, Branners, hates losing, and he hates losing to the Bulls. If there's one team that just gets him going, it is the Bulls. I was surprised with his performance against Leinster because Branners is a guy who leads from the front. I said to you as well, he just looked like a guy who had to lead Goodwood's first team out on a shitty Wednesday evening against Ike's under-23s who were just swinging their ball around while it's raining and thinking, at 40 years old, what am I doing here? He just didn't look impressed being in Dublin. I think the Stormers need his body language to be up. They need him to be firing. Guaranteed he's going to have a cracker. That guy doesn't play badly at home. He really plays badly. I thought the Leinster game was one of the more indifferent ones I've seen from him. And you can count him on one hand the best part of 15 years. So for Branners to be at the forefront, BJ Dixon to show some form again.
Before you go off Branners, though, I mean, that's an age-old rivalry, him and Marcel, right? Because Marcel came through under Heineke in terms of the box setup. Dion obviously took a longer road to get to the box setup, and he's been in his current form his whole career. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting showdown against Marcel, who a lot of water has gone under the bridge between the two of them.
So that would be great. I think the BJ Dixon, you really want to see that bit of the old fire before he went to the box. I think it's a little bit low on confidence. He hasn't quite rediscovered that form. Get back to basics. Be the player that got you into the box, not necessarily the one they want you to be. Show that grunt. Ruben van Heerden and Samuel Marat, I know that you'll get your pound of flesh out of them. The Bulls locks also, Nokia not there, but workhorses, solid citizens. And then that first scrum, Frans Malherbe against Steenekamp, that's also going to be great.
Juicy.
They do that every time at training for 6 months.
Can we just go back to BJ Dixon playing Curvis Visa, a guy who's been touted as potentially supposed to be in the Springbok squad, a guy who really believe he can get to the next World Cup. And BJ Dixon is a guy who's had an opportunity already, and you're not really sure where he stands. That is a huge one-on-one battle.
There are huge one-on-one battles here, okay? Another one, Dweber. Joe Dweber, if he plays, he's up against Grobbies. And then, I don't know who plays against the World Cup, but I pity them.
Good luck, Ali for Mark.
Yeah. This could be one. Brocky.
I think Brock may play that seniors card this week.
Brocky, coach player, not player coach, okay? So, you don't really want to be playing World Cup at this stage, okay? That would have been great if it had been Stevie Kitsoff, Weber, and Frans Malherbe against that. You could just have paid for that tight five to go up against each other.
Hopefully we get to see that again one day.
Like a live scrumming session.
Yeah.
But still two very good sides that we put up. But again, you can't dispute the fact that this is not the same Stormers squad when you look at who's not there. And you can't have an expectation like you would have of the Stormers if they were there.
No, spot on.
Because
I don't, mate. I've said the Bulls are going to win.
No, I heard you say Division, but I'm kind of not hearing you, okay? I can't hear you. Do you, just for one moment, I just want to remind you that Bloberg is not Pretoria made.
Mate, it is closer to Pretoria than the CBD.
It's not Pretoria made, and it is still part of the Western Cape. Start of the Stormers region, province, part of the Western province, okay? It's an early kickoff. There's a lot of Bulls guys in this team. Aister, Jean-Andre Joubert, our guy, born and bred Bulls. Even though he lives out in Brackenfell, he's brought the Bulls colours to Cape Town. He's unrelenting in his support.
Once hitchhiked up the N1 just to go watch the Bulls play.
Exactly. Lost his watch on the way home.
Yeah.
Got into a fight with some Stormers supporters because they had won again. But he's confident. He says it's not in doubt. The Bulls will win comfortably, double digits. Said, okay, he's a brave man. I think he called it 25 points plus. So maybe he knows something we don't know. But I'm going to go to history, 7 wins in a row.
Yep.
I'm going to go to Dobbo and his fighting mantra. I'm going to go to Salman Marat as the captain. And I'm going to say that nothing, there is no argument to be made for the Stormers to win this game. But I'm going to give them an argument to say the Stormers will win.
Give me the score.
And they will win by 4 points, 23-19.
Okay.
23-19, and they'll profit from an intercept of a Willie Leroux drift pass.
Mate. They finally call a Willie Leroux pass forward.
And Billy will say that's for Paul Roos.
Mate,
okay?
I love your optimism. It's not going to happen. The only way that the Stormers win this game is if Jaco Paper's reffing, and he's not reffing this week, mate. The Bulls are going to win this one, and I'm going to give it to them 30-18.
Or Maurice Jonkers in the TMO there, with that other guy, Maurice van der Westhuizen.
Yeah.
I don't want him there because he's from President High, and he always texts us, okay? And that's in the northern suburbs of Cape Town. But I have a funny feeling that Weber's going to find, he's going to bring his Luke Littler game to the Cape Town Stadium, and those darts are going to be hitting Ruben van Heerden, hitting Salman Marat. And if that first dart travels, and let's just go straight front ball, 2 ball.
Just take it right at the front.
Just calm him
3-man
down.
line out.
Calm him down. We don't need that one to the tail. Eh? Yeah. I don't care how attacking that thing is. So calm him down. Let his power game come to the fore. Let him have a great game. If I was the Stormers and I look at it, the expectation would be when you look at the quality of the two sides. And here's an interesting little exercise because most coaches do it. They look at the starting 15's opposition, they look at their 15, and realistically they say, we pick a combined team. When I look at the 15 on form this season, okay?
Yeah.
Not pedigree, on form.
Yeah.
I would think that Warwick Gelant, given that Devin Williams will play at fullback, not Willie Leroux, I would say that Warwick Gelant would be the only person that people up north would say would get into that Bulls team on form.
Very cool.
Because Frans Malherbe, to me, the best side in the world, but he hasn't been on form in terms of the URC, and he's been coming into it. So you'd pick a Wilco low ahead of him. but on form. So if you got 14 from the one team that would make a combined team, that team should be expected to win.
Spot on.
So how many would you put in from each team?
No, I think you're pretty close there. Brunnis is a guy I would probably give a shot to play 6.
But on form. I mean, he come back and played
True.
like 4 games.
True.
So I'm not talking about the pedigree of the player.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
It's like if you look at the form, they're 6
Especially
and
with
2.
all the injuries. I mean,
They're 6 and 2. The other guys are 4 from 9.
yeah.
Lots of injuries, but on form, you would say the Stormers should come, by rights, should come second on Saturday, and it shouldn't be a shock to anyone. But I'm saying they're going to come first.
Mate.
And they're going to win, like they did against
yeah.
the Sharks, like they did against the Lions, and people are going to ask, how?
That'd be amazing. That'd be amazing because they've got a game in hand, I think, on 9 of the teams above them.
Yeah.
Something like that. They can move up quite radically with the win here. It's their last home game until the middle of April. It's against their arch nemesis for the South African Shield in that race. It would be a massive, massive result for them. I mean, obviously a win helps the Bulls too, but for the Stormers, they got way more riding on this one.
Look, and the Bulls, 6 from 8, I think they've got 2 games in hand.
Yeah.
They should be comfortably a top 4 team,
Yeah.
potentially pushing for a top 2. I mean, Leinster are going to run away with it, okay? They're 10 from 10 at the moment. But the Bulls potentially second or even third. I prefer them to be fourth, to go to Leinster for the playoff and eventually knock them over in the semi-final and come back and play us, who ends 8th. We go to Pretoria and win it. What a final.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. The Stormers have won it again, this time at Loftus. So get to the DHL Stadium. If there are still tickets by the time you watch the show, or they normally do release like a late 1,000 always on match day. But 45,000 is the word that have already been sold. I think the capacity is just under 50,000 or that they put out. But this will be, again, the Lions, great turnout, and then the Sharks was a sold out. So to sell out the Sharks, to go and put in a courageous effort against Racing in Paris with a mix and match team in the Champions Cup, very disappointing against Leinster. Arguably their worst performance of the season, but against a very good Leinster team, despite a lot of the internationals being in Portugal with Ireland. And then to still command this kind of crowd tells you everything about the love there is for Dobbo, the love there is for the Stormers and what they've achieved in the last 3 years.
Yep.
But history will count for nothing, as Jake will tell you. You're only as good as your last game. That last game was a comfortable Bulls win, 40-22 at Loftus. I don't think we'll see 40 points from the Bulls. We'll see 19, 23 from the Stormers. Zels has got 18 for the Stormers, 30 for the Bulls.
Norm Lake is going to be texting me right now.
Norm Lake is going to, how are they going to get 30? That means
He gave a great stat the other day. Maybe you know this and I'm late to the party, but Willie LaRue has played 80 tests, which matches Percy Montgomery's record at fullback for the Springboks.
That's fantastic. And he'll play 81, and then he will break that record as a fullback.
Although if he plays well on Saturday, maybe he plays 10 for the Box.
Well, it's a good option to have as 10. Who's going to do the goal kicking for the Bulls? That's what I want to know.
Apparently Davy Creel.
And do you think he's good enough to do it?
Yeah.
In terms of consistency?
I think he's a fabulous player, and I think in moments like this where he has to step in, maybe he's not the designated guy long term. I think he's definitely got the BMT for it.
All right, so that is URC, Vodacom URC. The only game this weekend, it's the one that should have started the season. Could it kickstart the Stormers season or just be a continuation of where the Bulls are going as they push for a top 4? If you do follow the Keo.co.za and our WhatsApp channel, Keo and Zels WhatsApp channel, we started a rewind series. Great Springboks. I'm talking Springboks. Because the one thing I have with the legends is it's not really legends of Springbok rugby. Maybe legends of South African rugby. When you look at the SA Rugby legends, they do great work in the communities, but it's maybe a great club player or provincial player. But I'm talking about great Springboks, and we take it from 1992 onwards, potentially 1996 onwards. Their players aren't always celebrated, or players now. And we launched with Rassie Erasmus because people know him as the guy who won 2 back-to-back World Cups. As he says, hulle ken my so 'n bietjie van 'n vettertjie nou. But this guy could play. He had to retire at the age of 32. He's injured his foot at 29. He says the modern-day player can't even believe that was him, okay? At his prime as an athlete, 36 test matches. He started 32 in succession under Nick Mallett through that great run of the Springboks where they won everything. And we're within a Stephen Larkham draw call, basically, of going through to the World Cup final in 1999. So Rassie was our first one. He played 36 test matches, 2 under Carl. He played the British and Irish Lions and won in that 61-22 against Australia. Monty's 2 big tries, the Andre Joubert pass, record breaking against Australia. Then obviously they played with under Nick, and then 2 with Harry before his foot was conked and went over to coaching and then won won the Currie Cup with the Cheetahs. But interesting stat about Rassie is he's played for the Cheetahs and he's coached the Cheetahs. He's played for the Stormers and he's coached the Stormers. And he's played for South Africa and he's coached South Africa.
Wild.
He knew that he had that double on the treble.
Wow.
Okay. But another thing that's also interesting for those who may remember this, the Bob Skinstad, Rassie Erasmus, big rivalry in the late 1990s. Men in Black, Cats, Rassie, Men in Black, Stormers, Bobby. Skinstad would end his career playing for the Cats, and Rassie would end his career playing for the Stormers.
Ways.
And it looks so wrong.
That is crazy.
The two of them in those
Bobby and
jerseys.
Joburg.
Yeah, and
Jeez.
Rassie back in captain
Yeah.
and the Stormers jersey.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So he was the first one, and then we went with Donnie Rousseau, the second one. Your thoughts of Donnie
Donnie
Rousseau?
Rousseau, the ultimate utility forward. I mean, he's a guy who could play anywhere from 4 to 8. Massive powerhouse ball carrier, won everywhere and every level. European Cups, Currie Cups, everything in between. Just an absolutely fabulous. If you had to sort of draw a picture of the ultimate South African forward, Donnie would be on the shortlist for whose picture you'd use.
And the ultimate South African hunter. We did a piece there, Bucky's, his good mate Bucky's Buerta, the original and only enforcer, as we know. The butcher, he make you bleed.
Yep.
And you put a 4 jersey in any room and you send Bucky's in and whoever else in. I'm always backing Bucky's to come out with it. Doesn't matter how he looks, he's going to come out with it, okay? Big friend of Donnie Rousseau's. We interviewed him for that piece. Heineke May, who coached Donnie mainly. Heineke said a combination of Victor and Bucky's and some more. And then they sent a wonderful picture of their first under-9 title in junior school, Bucky's and Donnie Rousseau together. And one played 9, which was Donnie Rousseau. Bucky's played 9, Donnie Rousseau played 10. And they were the halfback period under 9. So when you go to schools rugby and you see these two little oaks playing at under 9 level at halfback, know that could become the most fearsome Springbok and World Rugby lock period 20 years down the line. So,
Mate, we started with Ross Vincent going from fullback to forwards, and you've done it again. The same guys.
Same guys,
situation.
So that's a wonderful series. We'll continue to do that. If you've got any suggestions, we also did a piece for Ndani Khaber, into the Hall of Fame. Apartheid on both sides deprived people of playing Test rugby. He was one of them. Limited Test matches. Wonderful player. 19 tries in 24 Tests. Did you know he also kicked a conversion? I didn't know that. Okay. But Ndani Khaber there. Mail me Keo at keo.co.za. Go onto our WhatsApp channel. Follow us there. Get hold of us on the Twitter accounts as well. Tell us who you want to see featured. We'll get hold of them and we'll write about them. But for now, get down to Cape Town Stadium on Saturday. Zels will be there. He'll be the guy with the beard wearing the Bulls jersey. You want to give that score again?
30-18.
30-18 Zels says to the Bulls. I say 23-19 to the Stormers. And if you want to know what Moneyman says, check it out on his Facebook page. But there's a proviso. Check it out about 10 minutes before kickoff.
Try scored.